Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We have an exciting day today. We have the Grey Knight Codex. A bit of a confession, I've already played a game with this and so I have had to flick through it and made an army list from it, and it got dropped while we were playing, hence the dent unfortunately. So a bit miffed about that, but never mind. The game's actually going to be uploaded onto the channel very soon, next sort of few days, keep an eye out for that. It's Grey Knights versus Iron Warriors. It's a bit of a grudge match, so that was really cool, so keep an eye out for that. But I'm very excited to go through it. This is only my second time reading it. Like I say, I made an army list from it, but I didn't look at all the choices and look at the codex itself. I am a Grey Knight player, obviously. So although I plan to get every codex when it comes out and review it for you as soon as possible, this one's particularly exciting, so I am pretty psyched up for this. So I really want to see what's inside, so with no further ado we'll jump in. I'm really happy they kept this as the cover. I know that they're doing it with all the codexes, so it's not so necessarily a choice, but I love this front cover. I love the like aura around the Grey Knight and the like sizzling weapon as the rain like hits it. It's like sizzling with power, and just the grim kind of last stand look of it. I just think it sums up the Grey Knight really nicely. So this is going to be quite an in-depth review. Just a very quick addendum. What I am going to do is do a Chaos Space Marine Codex review as well, because I have that as well for my Iron Warriors. And I'm going to do two types of Codex reviews for the next sort of few codexes to see what you guys prefer and anyone else who joins the channel prefers. And so with the Grey Knight one, I'm going to do an in-depth one where I look through the codex and I go through every choice and have a bit of thought about it. Whereas the Chaos Space Marine one's going to be more of a, this is what I think of the elite section, this is what I think of the fast attack section, and just have a few highlights here and there, and it'll be a bit quicker. And it'll just be to see whether you guys want me to talk about every choice or whether you just want, I just want to know what the best things are in the codex and decide whether I want to get it myself, you know, something like that. So let's jump through some cool artwork. Fighting Cornate demons by the looks of it. Oh no, some Nurgle as well. It's a bit of, and Sinesh, so a bit of everything there. That's pretty cool. The Canticle of Absolution in full, so you can actually read the whole thing. If you want to play the role play part of the codex, you can actually sort of read the whole thing. The Emperor's Gift, so it's all the standard background about Titan, about the Terminator Decree, or Terminus Decree, which if anyone doesn't know, while I'm flicking through this, I'll go through. Basically, there's a box underneath Titan that only the Grandmaster knows exists. I know the Grandmaster knows how to get into it, and the seal, we don't know what's in it, obviously, but the seal matches the one on the Emperor's throne. So obviously the theory is that it's only to be used in the darkest hour, and the theory is it's to kill the Emperor. And hope he ascends to be a god, because all else hopes failed. So if he dies, well, we're all going to die in a minute anyway. But if he becomes a god, awesome. So it's quite a cool little thing. What's in there? They've done the different brotherhoods again, which is cool. Some of these are cool as well because they've actually done background for them here, which actually tells you what they're like. So from now on, my Grey Knights, when I do my collection focus for them, will be the Blades of Victory, the second brotherhood, because they have lots of teleportation tactics to outmaneuver their enemies, as it says here. Lots of intercept squads, and that's what I've got. So my entire army is either in, not just kind of a spoiler, is intercept squads, Dread Knights with teleporters, and units in the Storm Raven. So it's really fast, so it suited them, and they're called the Blades of Victory, which sounds badass. So I'm kind of happy to go with them. Gives you loads of cool heraldry, how to paint that. Obviously the new map as well. The cool thing with the new map as well is that in each codex I'm finding different things are pointed out, things that are more relevant to that codex rather than the same thing. So for this, the key is Chaos Strongholds or Demon Worlds, Demonic Incursions, Warp Storms and Planets. So it's kind of cool that, you know, you've got Catachan, you've got Nocturne, you've got Badab, all hanging around as normal. But it shows, you know, there's a planet called the Equinox Wars, which is a demonic incursion apparently. And then there's Medregard, which is actually the Iron Warriors' homeworld, so I believe anyway. So that's kind of cool. So that's obviously come into real space, and that's a Chaos Stronghold. So it's nice that you get a different view of each one. So some Deeds of Legend, loads of cool stories here. Some really cool stories actually in there. There's some new ones as well. Again, great thing about the new timelines, guys, is that they stop about here in the old background, and then all of this is new background, new things that have happened since the since Gilliman's come back to life and the Great Warp Storms come along. So that's really cool. A bit about some of the characters, different units. Chaplains are now in the Grey Knight book, guys. Chaplains. I think that's awesome. I love the idea of a Grey Knight Chaplain. Firstly, how badass does that guy look? How much of an epic dude does that guy look? He looks so cool. So firstly, for that reason, I'm really happy about it. But I'm actually really happy about it as well, because Grey Knights, as brilliant as they are, would still need, you know, a leader to sort of guide them and keep their minds honest. You know, they might be the best, but they also fight the worst. So it sort of goes both ways, really. They also have ancients in their army. So they have the ancient banner bearers, things like that. One thing that I'm going to find really interesting is whether they have Primaris at some point. They have Primaris Grey Knights, so I presume it's going to happen at some point. They also have Storm Talons and Stormhawks, guys, so lots more air power for the Grey Knights, which is a cool little addition. Again, why wouldn't they use them if they're really good? They have all the resources ever, and they look really cool in Grey Knight colours. Again, just to show you some models, there's a converted Chaplain there. He looks really cool. So just an idea of the kind of thing you can do. And also, I think the Stormhawks and Storm Talons look really cool, if I find them. There's the Stormhawk and Storm Talon as well, in Grey Knight colours. I think they look really epic, actually. I think they look really nice. So, especially the Stormhawk. So, yeah, some new units in the Codex, which is cool to see. New options. Okay, down to the rules, which is probably the main reason a lot of you are here. I do love the background, but we all need to know the rules. So they have, and they show no fear, so they can reroll fail morale tests. So that's cool. They've got good leadership plus reroll morale tests. These guys aren't going anywhere. So if you play Grey Knights like me, they'll be a pretty reliable army for you. If you have Demon Hunters, if this unit attacks any demons in the fight phase, you can reroll failed wound rolls for those attacks. So obviously only relevant against demons, but when you are facing demons, rerolling wounds is brilliant. And also, you know, there's a few armies that have demons. You face Eldar and they have an avatar, you know, things like that. There are some demons hanging around who aren't necessarily all demon armies. Rites of Banishment. When this unit manifests the Smite Psychic Power, it has a range of 12 inches rather than 18 inches, and the target unit suffers only 1 mortal wound rather than D3, whether or not the result of the psychic test is more than 10, unless the target unit is a demon, in which case it suffers 3 more wounds instead of D3. So, this is actually not a bad thing. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's really weird. They've made the Grey Knight Psychic powers worse. Why would you do that? They're like an army of Psychers. But when you actually realise, and the thing I didn't realise till I played a game, when you realise that every unit in your army has Smite, and every single unit can cast it because you don't have a pool of dice anymore, it's just leadership check for each unit, you start to think how utterly horrendous it would be if it was D3 mortal wounds every time. I know you get the 3 wounds against demons, which is cool, but again, it's very specific. You'd have to be fighting demons. So the fact they've nullified the range a little bit and made it only 1 more wound is not a bad thing. Believe me, you will cast it so much. Again, if you watch the battle report I've got coming up next sort of couple of days, it's cast a lot and it does quite a bit of damage. So yes, don't worry too much about that. It's honestly fine because your entire army will be casting it. You know, even if you've got an elite Grey Knight army, like Paladins, things like that, you're still looking at 2 Dread Knights, let's say 3 Paladin squads and 2 Strike squads, something like that. Is, you know, that's fair. That's still 7 smites a turn, you know. So if they all concentrate on 2 targets, those 2 targets are going to be taking, you know, 4 or 5 mortal wounds each a turn, let alone all your firepower and combat abilities. So don't worry, it's okay. Teleport Strike. During deployment, you can set up this unit in a teleportation chamber instead of setting off the battlefield, and then come down 9 inches away as normal. So standard stuff. They don't get an elite version of Teleport Strike, which would have been nice, maybe set up within 7, but you know that's fine. Again, probably would have broken the game, so can't moan too much. Cool. So they're the base overall rules. So we're going to go through this section at a time. There's quite a lot of HQs, but once you get into the other units, there's not too many. For instance, troops, there's only 2. Elites, there's 5, is there? Yeah, so, you know, it's not maybe as many as you think. There are some, I won't do in as much detail, things like servitors. One, because I think the vast majority of people don't take them, but even if you do, they're basic things that are available in the Space Marine Codex and things like that, so you've probably seen what they do already anyway. So you've got Caldar Drago. I'll just get to the points bit at the back, just so I've got that available. Cool. So, Caldar Drago, he's moving 5 inches because he's in this big Terminator armour. Weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, strength and toughness 4, 7 wounds, 5 attacks, and leadership 9, 2+ save. So obviously great stat line, starting with 5 attacks and 7 wounds is awesome. Comes with a Titan Sword, a Storm Shield, Storm Bolt, a Frag and Crack Grenades, Psych Out Grenades. So Storm Bolt is just a bolt gun, but it's rapid fire too. So it does mean if you're within 12 inches, you do get 4 shots. So when your Grey Knights are deep striking, something for the rest of your army to deal with, when they deep strike, if they come down within 12, which they probably will, you actually get 4 shots a guy. I know it's only a bolt gun, but 4 shots a guy is pretty good. Yes, Frag and Crack Grenades, Psych Out Grenades, which are Grenade D3, Strength 2, AP-Damage 1. Each time you roll a hit roll of a 6 for this weapon, when targeting a Psycho or Demon, it suffers some more wound instead of the normal damage. So it's okay. Really, it doesn't really do anything. Because the chance you find Demon and rolling 6+ with D3 shots is pretty low. The main event though, the Titan Sword. So the Titan Sword is +4 strength, so strength 8, AP -4, and the damage flat 3, which is great. When you've got 5 attacks, I know you've got a hit and wound with all of them, which is reasonably unlikely even for him, but you could do 15 wounds. That's pretty brutal. He has Nation No Fear, Demon Hunters, Right to Banishment, so stuff we covered before. He also has a 3+ invulnerable save from his Storm Shield, so he has a 2-up, 3-up with 7 wounds, so he's quite a tank. Bane of Evil. When a friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of Caldor Drago makes an attack against a demon unit in the fight phase, you can reroll damage units for that unit. So that's nice. So if you've got Grey Knights within 6 inches of them and you're fighting demons, you can reroll damage rolls for the unit. Obvious, and as we'll see in a bit, basically every weapon the Grey Knights carry in combat does D3 damage or D6 damage or does 2 damage or whatever it is. So being able to reroll your damage is really good, really good. But obviously again, we've got to be fighting demons. Chapter Master. You can reroll failed hit rolls for friendly Grey Knight units within 6 inches of Caldor Drago. So that's obviously nice and cool. Again, if he's with, if you wanted to remake a tank out of him, have him in like 7 paladins, this big unit, all of them re-rolling hits, and obviously that's in combat and shooting would be fantastic. Warp Emergence. Basically, he can be placed in the warp instead of putting him on the battlefield and come down 9 inches away from the enemy. He can manifest 2 psychic powers and attempt to deny 2. He knows Smite and 2 other psychic powers from the Santic discipline. So he's a good psychic. He can deny 2, cast 2, and knows 3 psychic powers, which is pretty good. He's 240 points, so he is quite a lot, but it's not a crazy amount. 240, considering he has got 7 wounds, as I said, with a 2+ save and 3+ invulnerable, which is a lot to take off. He makes the units around him better, and he will kill most stuff with that Titan Sword. So, I wouldn't say he's a must-take or anything like that. I think the days of tanky heroes being must-takes are over. It's more about those auras, but he is cool, and 240 points is not an exceptional amount to pay for him. So we've got Grandmaster Voldus. He has the same stat line as Drago, except for he only has 6 wounds. I say only has 6 wounds, but he only has 6 wounds. Apart from that, he's exactly the same. He's armed with the Malleus Angrimen, maybe? Weird spelt weapon, but anyway. A Storm Bolter, Frag and Crack Grenades, Psych Out Grenades. So the Malleus Angrimen, I'm going to say, it's ×2 strength, so strength 8, AP -3, damage 3. So again, very similar to Drago, he's just got 1 less AP. He has the same grenades. He's a 4+ invulnerable, so just 1 less invulnerable than Drago. His Rites of Battle, which is you can reroll 1s for friendly Grey Knights within 6 inches, so it's not all rerolls, it's reroll 1s. And he can attempt to master 3 psychic powers though, and attempt to deny 3, and he knows Smite and 3 psychic powers. So he is by far the most powerful psychic I've seen before. Knowing 4 psychic powers is great, including Smite, but being able to cast and deny 3, basically every psychic power they're casting, you're pretty much going to be able to deny, well, with him and then your units anyway. But being able to cast 3 is brilliant. The fact he can cast Smite and 2 other powers is pretty nasty. So he's 190. I think the same as Drago. I think he's a nice option. 190 points is not a lot to pay for someone who's, again, as tough as he is, can mete out as much damage as he does, and all those psychic powers. Yeah, he's a pretty solid choice. Pretty solid choice. The model's pretty cool as well, so worth having a look at. So this is a Grandmaster, so this is if you want to make your own Grandmaster, you don't want to use one of the characters. So again, actually same stat line as Voldus, so just 1 less wound than Drago. He has a Nemesis Force Halberd, Storm Bolter, Frag Grenades, Crack Grenades and Psych Out Grenades. The Force Halberd, so we'll cover the Force Halberd here. +1 strength, so it'd be strength 5, AP -2, and D3 damage. So there's that D3 damage you could be re-rolling. So it's quite nice. And they shall know to fear Demon Hunters, Rites of Banishment, and Teleport Strike. Yeah. Rites of Battle, so the rerolls of 1. 4+ in 1 will save, and he can attempt to cast 2 psychic powers, deny 1, and he knows smite on 1 of the psychic power. So actually, it'd be interesting to see how many points are between him and Voldus, because Voldus is just as tough, meets out more damage, and does more psychic powers, and has the same sort of rules. So I wonder how much the Grand Master is in comparison. So the Grand Master is 160, plus his halberd, which might be 3, I don't know how many points they are. Force halberd, yeah, Force halberd's 3. So he is 160, but to be honest, unless you're giving him a really cool relic, which we'll look at later, and you may well be doing that, I'd go for Voldus. I think for 30 points to have a better weapon in combat, so you can mean out more damage, and to cast 2 more psychic powers a turn, no sorry, cast 1 more psychic power a turn, deny 2 more, and know 2 more as well, is worth 30 points. Definitely. Because if you want to give the Grandmaster a hammer, so he's kind of dealing out the same sort of damage as Voldus is, that is going to cost you another 13 points. Now he's only 17 points cheaper. And like I say, you've got all that psychic advantage of Voldus. So I'd potentially be looking at Voldus there if you don't mind taking a character. So this is another of the awesome new ideas from Games Workshop. And an idea that makes so much sense. This should have been done ages ago, but it's done now. Grandmaster and a Nemesis Dread Knight. Why wouldn't you give a Nemesis Dread Knight to a Grandmaster? You're the best fighter we've got and you're our leader, but you have to sit in a Land Raider, not in a Dread Knight suit. So, Dread Knights, remaining wounds go 7, 12, 4, 6, 1, 3. Movement goes 8, 7, 6. Bliss skill 2, 3, 4, and attacks 5, 4, 3. So the good thing is that actually, even on its bottom movement 6 inches, bottom bliss skill 4+, and bottom attack 3, it's actually not that bad. So that's really good. When you're taking damage, you're not actually getting crippled that badly. Weapon skill 2+, strength and toughness 6, 12 wounds, leadership 9, and a 2+ save. So one thing to know about the 12 wounds, it is double what the other Grandmasters have got, but he can be shot because obviously he's over, he's into double-digit wounds, so he can be picked out. So again, we found in the game, without giving too much away, that works both ways. It's really good because he's got so many wounds, it's so hard to get through them. But the flip side is, like I say, anyone can shoot him. And he's not easy to get into cover because he's a big lad, so that's something to take into account. He comes with 2 Dread Fists. The Dread Fists are ×2 strength, so be strength 12, AP -3, damage D3, and each time you fight, if you have 2 Dread Fists, you make an additional attack, so you would go up to 6 attacks base, which is kind of horrendous. And you know, it's a good weapon, ×2 strength, AP -3, damage D3. So yeah, I mean the cool thing is that I'm sure your opponents would be okay. If you've got, like me, a sword on yours, I'm sure if you said, oh, I'm not using the sword, I'm just using his fist, because his fist is still there, obviously holding the sword and things. There isn't like a power fist glove you put on or anything. I'm pretty sure they'd let you use the 2 Dread Fists if you want to, because like I say, they're a good option. So the Nemesis Demon Hammer, or Great Hammer, it's still ×2 strength, but it does AP -4 and D6 wounds instead. You must subtract 1 from your hit roll, but you are hitting on 2s, but also damage rolls of less than 3, sorry, count as 3 for this weapon. So he is doing 3 damage. So that might as well say ×2 strength, AP -4, 3 + D3 damage, which when you think of it like that, is horrendous. So you're going to average, well, it's not quite like that because I suppose that would average 5 damage, which isn't true, but you know what I mean. It's that's pretty reliable. You have got the -1 to hit, but like I said, most of the time that'll still keep you hitting on 3s or 4s, so it's not too bad. And then you've got the Great Sword, which is +4 strength, so you're still strength 10, still pretty good. AP -3 and D6 damage with no other rules, so they're all worth it in their own way. The Dread Fist does the least damage, but you get the additional attack if you have 2 of them. The Great Hammer does the most damage, but you're on -1 to hit. And the Nemesis Great Sword does medium damage and medium to hit, and you know, it's just sort of good all round. You can take up to 2 of Heavy Incinerator, Gatling Silencer, Heavy Side Cannon. This model may replace one of its Dreadfists with a Great Hammer or Great Sword. This model may take a Dread Knight Teleporter. So I'll go through the other weapons before we go through like the Dread Knight Teleporter and those funky bits of equipment. So the Gatling Silencer is... the Gatling Silencer for me is still one of those weapons that I'm like, oh, there's so much potential, but it's things have got to kind of fall your way. So it's 24 inches, which is fine. Heavy 12, which is great. You're hitting on 2s most of the time. Oh, your ballistic skill is what goes down, not your weapon skill. It's actually the Great Hammer is probably the one to take because you're always going to be hitting on 3s. Always. So yeah, actually the Great Hammer, just to go back to the weapons, the Great Hammer is probably the one to take, not the Sword or the Dreadfist, just because you're always hitting on 3s but you do all that damage. So the Gatling Silencer is heavy 12, strength 4, AP dash, damage D3. So to get D3 damage on a weapon that has 12 shots is brilliant, but like I said, it's just that strength 4 AP dash that it's just like, oh, I mean, it's 5s to hurt basically everything in the game that you're going to be shooting at, because you're not going to shoot at basic Space Marines with a D3 damage weapon. And it's AP dash, so everyone's getting their saves. I just don't see it as being worth it, but that's my own opinion. Heavy Incinerator, 12 inches, heavy D6, strength 6, AP -1, damage 2, it auto hits. So this has the weakness of being heavy D6. So again, D6 shots, how many are you going to roll? The damage is great, strength 6, AP -1, damage 2, and you're auto hitting. So don't get me wrong, that's great. But again, it's the D6 shots. So the star of the show for me is the Heavy Side Cannon. So it only has one profile now because there's no templates, but it's 24 inches, heavy 6, strength 7, AP -1, damage 2. So it's a nice flat damage 2, AP -1, strength 7, and you're still getting 6 shots. You're also to start with still hit on 2s. Most of the game you're going to hit on 3s. So I just think it's great. I think it's really good. It's not to say don't take the others, and especially as you can take 2, you might as well take the Silencer to back it up or the Incinerator for close range, but I would just say always make sure you've got a side cannon on it. It has a 4% vulnerable save, which Sanctuary you can boost that, so it can become really, really good. Rights of Battle, you can reroll 1s for friendly units. Dreadnought Teleporter, so during deployment you can set up in a teleport chamber and come down 9 inches away from the enemy. So they can't do the shunt like the Interceptors can, but because they can deep strike at the start of the game, it doesn't really matter. It's still really good. And he can manifest 2 psychic powers, attempt to deny 1, and he knows 2. So I think the Grandmaster's really, really good. He's 190 points base. By the time you've tooled him up with his different weapons, let's have a quick look. 15. He's probably going to be about 250 points, and he's absolutely worth it. Especially as you can teleport down, so you can guarantee to shoot before he gets shot. You can get into combat 1 turn later, so they've got to take off 12 wounds in a turn. So, you know, that's pretty unlikely. So I think the Grandmaster Dread Knight is pretty awesome. Definitely worth taking. And he can stand next to other Dread Knights and give them rerolls to 1s to hit. So all of a sudden your 2-3 Dread Knights become really, really brutal. So Castellan Crow's next. So movement 6+, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, strength toughness 4, 5 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, and 2+ save. So the 5 wounds and 5 attacks are nice. The 2+ to hit's nice. So he's got a pretty good stat line. He has the Black Blade of Antwer, a Storm Bolter, Frag and Crack grenades, Psych Out grenades. So just cover the Black Blade. So strength of the user, AP dash, damage 1. So like in the previous codex, it doesn't do anything because he doesn't actually activate the blade because it's got that demon inside it that they don't want to let out. So unfortunately his blade doesn't really do anything, so it'll be all up to what else he does to see whether he's worth it. So he has And They Shall Know No Fear, Demon Hunters, Heroic Sacrifice. If Castellan Crow is slain in the fight phase, he can immediately pile in an attack before being removed as a casualty. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so basically, if he's killed, he can immediately pile in. It doesn't say if he hasn't already attacked, so he'll attack twice the turn he dies if he does. So that's not bad. When Castellan Crow manifests the Smite Psychic powers, it only has a range of 3 inches, so we're talking really close up or in combat, but it inflicts D6 more wounds. So that's pretty nasty. Yeah, so he does d6 wounds every time he does smite, so that could really pile on some damage. So that's quite nice. 4+ invulnerable. Master Swordsman. You can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for Castellan Crow in the fight phase. In addition, each time you make a successful wound with Castellan Crow, you can immediately make another attack with the Black Blade Advantur. These additional attacks cannot generate any further attacks. Okay, so what's the chance of that happening? He's got 5 attacks, he's hitting on 2s, winning most things on 4s or 5s. Yeah, it's not actually that, but he's re-rolling, so they should all hit, but then you're wounding on 4s and 5s, so you're probably, if you take that into account, he's probably a 7 attack model, which, 7 attacks, re-roll hits and wounds, you'd think, geez, that's horrendous. But the fact that it's strength to use at AP-damage 1 means, unless you're fighting like nids, so the fact that you're hitting on 2s, re-rolling, wounding on 3s, re-rolling against like Gaunts, they've only got 5-6 up save anyway. Yeah, so I suppose, yeah, Castellan Crow's not bad for crowd control, potentially. He can cast 2 psychic powers, deny 1, and he knows smite and 1 more. How many points is he? He is only 125, so I personally probably still wouldn't have him, just because unless you happen to face a poor unit in combat as far as armor saves go, but then you want your leader to be taken on something better than that anyway. So the only really good thing about him, I would say, is that psychic power. The fact that smites d6 wounds is pretty horrible, but otherwise for 125 points I'd make my own captain. I mean, how much is a captain? Or so brother captain, to be fair, is 150 points base, but even as a base I think he's probably better. I think we'll probably cover him on the next page. Yeah, so we cover brother captains here, so let's do that now actually. So they've got the same weapon skill, ballistical, same strength and toughness. The brother captain has 1 more wound, 1 less attack. The brother captain has 1 more leadership though, and he comes with a Nemesis Force Halberd. So you see he's strength 5, he's doing D3 damage, it's AP -1. He can cast 1 less psychic power, but he can still deny 1, and he still knows as many psychic powers. He has the 4% vulnerable save like Crow does. And he's a Psychic Locus, which means when a friendly Grey Knights unit within 6 inches manifests a smite power, you can double its range. Oh, that's quite cool. So he does that as well. And he's got access to other weapons. I know he's more expensive, but I just think I would just take a brother captain rather than Crow, which is a shame, but like I say, unless you particularly want him on crowd control, maybe, or you're playing a big game, so you can afford, like, when you're playing big games, you can kind of afford luxury models, maybe then. Okay, so the brother captain, just as a point for that loadout, is about it's 150 points base because all that stuff's free. So yeah, brother captain for 150 points is pretty good. 175 probably by the time you've given him a demon hammer, which you probably will, etc. He's not bad for that kind of points. So brother captain Stern, another special character. You've got the same stat line as the brother captain. He comes with a 4 sword, storm bolter, frag and crack grenades, psych out grenades. The 4 sword, so we haven't come across this yet, is strength to the user, but it's AP -3, damage D3. So it's +2 AP minus over the halberd, but it doesn't get the +1 strength, and it still does D3 damage. One thing that's really good about the Grey Knights book is the sword, the falchions, the halberd and the demon hammer, I think, are really well weighted in their points and in their abilities. I think it's a really tough choice. I think generally you're still going to have demon hammers or falchions because you get the extra attack and they're still doing D3 damage, but it's pretty close. They're quite nicely balanced. He has Psychic Locus as well. He has a 4% vulnerable save. He can cast 2 psychic powers, attempt to deny 1 and knows 2, including smite. He has Nation No Fear, Demon Hunter's Teleport Strike. But the other 2 powers he has is the Strands of Fate. In each of your turns, you can choose to reroll a single failed hit or wound roll, or a single failed saving throw for Stern. However, if you do so, your opponent can reroll a single failed hit or wound roll or single failed saving throw for one of their models in the next turn. So, I mean, it's cool to have because in the end, yours could win the game, and they might not have a reroll that important. However, the fact you have to do yours on Stern and they can do it on anyone means that You might have that critical roll and it's still worth doing, but you're giving them a free reroll at any moment that they don't have to use a command point on. So although it's good, like it always has been, it's a bit too much of a double-edged sword, really. Zone of Banishment. When Captain Sturmurf smites psychic powers, it has a range of 6 inches rather than 18 inches. Additionally, the target unit suffers only 1 more wound rather than D3. Unless the target is a demon, in which case it suffers 3 more wounds. All demon units within 6 inches suffer 1 more wound. So basically you can drop Stern into a unit in a demon army and he'll hurt everyone around him, which is decent. But again, how often do you face demons? So yeah, he's 157 points, which is probably worth it because he's equipped the same as the Brother Captain, but he has the extra rules, so he's better. So for 7 points, he's probably better. If you are literally going to take a Brother Captain base, you kind of might as well take Stern, but nothing special that you particularly want to take. So on to Librarians. They have movement 5 inches, weapons got 2+, strength toughness 4, 5 wounds, 3 attacks, leash at 9, 2+ save. They have a warding stave, frag and crack grenades, psych out grenades. The warding stave is good in the new rules. So the warding stave is +2 strength, so strength 6. AP -1, which is okay. Damage D3, which is good. But also, a model arm with this weapon is a 5% vulnerable save against attacks made in the 5 phase. If it already has an invulnerable save, you add 1. So you can give a warding stave to, like, your Brother Captain who's got a 4+ save. His weapon won't be amazing, but you can see it's still decent. But he'll actually then have a 3+ invulnerable save. And you can potentially then cast Sanctuary on him and give him a 2-up invulnerable save. So warding stave shouldn't be dismissed for units, so you can start tanking wounds on a model worth barely any points, but also for your characters, because that will still boost them, like say strength 6, AP -1, D3 damage. It's not like it's terrible, but the fact you can give them a 2-up invulnerable save and all you've got to do that is cast Sanctuary every turn, which you're going to do more often than you're not with the +1 to your psychic powers. So there's a little tip potentially for you. And they should only fear Demon Hunter's Rites of Banishment and Teleport Strike. He also has a 5+ invulnerable save, so his is 4+ if he has the warding save, 3+ with Sanctuary. Psychic Hood, you can add 1 to the Deny the Witch test you take for this model against enemy psychics within 12. So that'll actually be add 2 for the Grey Knight special rule that you add 1 to your psychic tests and add 1 to Deny the Witch tests. You'll actually make him add 2 to Deny the Witch, so all of a sudden you're actually more likely to dispel it than not, which is really effective. He knows 2 psychic powers, he can attempt to deny 2, and he knows 2 powers and smite. So the Librarian's probably not too expensive. 157, which is okay. The warding stave is no points, so he is 157. So he's not as much of a tank in combat, he hasn't got as many wounds, things like that, not as many attacks, but the psychic potential is pretty high. So I think he could be well worth taking for 157 points. Onto the Terminator. This is one of the ones I'm going to kind of skip over a little bit because, like I say, it's not particularly a Grey Knight unit as such. He's just like he is in the Space Marine Codex. He has Blessings to the Omnissiah, so you can give D3 wounds back to a vehicle. The thing is, you're generally going to be on the move, so in that sense, it's not brilliant. If he's within 1 inch of them, so he can be embarked on them. So the only reason maybe is if you want to put him in a Land Raider, and it's a really important Land Raider. It's got like your Paladins and Drago in it, so you need it to stay alive. Potentially he could go in there. He's actually a Psyker, which is really cool. So he's from Mars, but he's a Terminator, but he's also a Psyker. It's a really bizarre combination. So he knows 1 psychic power, he can deny 1, and he knows smite and 1 other power. So I think the only time I take him is if either I've got that, like say, death team in a Land Raider, I need the Land Raider to survive, or potentially if you want to retrieve HQ, because the Tech Marine is 91 points. So okay, it's not that cheap, but for Grey Knights that's pretty cheap. If you're running a battalion detachment, you need those 2 HQs. You've got, let's say, Drago is one of them, and you want a cheap second one, you could just take a Tech Marine, log them in the Land Raider, and you're away. So, like I say, not particularly top of my list, but there are uses potentially. So now we come to the Chaplain, who's one of the newcomers. He's got the same stat line as the Librarian. Comes with the Crozius, Stormbolter, Frag and Crack Grenades, Psych Out Grenades. So the Crozius makes him Strength 5, AP -1, Damage 2. So it's the same as the normal Space Marine Crozius. It's It's solid. I mean, the +1 strength, -1 AP is quite nice. It's the damage 2 every hit, which is quite nasty. And then should only fear Demon Hunter's right to banishment, teleport strike. He's a 4+ vulnerable save, but then he gets the cool thing is he gets the Chaplain rules. So reroll hits for Grey Knights within 6, but also units within 6 can use his leadership. So you get a nice kind of combo there. One of the other leaders earlier lets them reroll wounds, doesn't he? Is it Drago lets them reroll wounds? No, he's failed hit rolls. Oh, and damage rolls. Maybe that's what it was. I feel like someone lets them reroll wounds. Is it Crow? No, maybe I'm just going mad. Wouldn't be that surprised. Okay, maybe not. But yeah, so re-rolling hits though with Grey Knights is brilliant. You know, you'll do so much damage. So he is a legitimate choice. And really bizarrely, the Chaplain can cast Psychic Powers. So again, really odd. If the Black Templars ever met them, their minds would just like blow up. They wouldn't know what to do about it. So the model can attempt to manifest 1 Psychic Power in each friendly phase, attempt to deny 1, and he knows smite 1 of the power. So the Chaplain's pretty flexible. He has aura attacks, he's a decent attacker in combat, and has Psychic Powers. So he kind of does it all. He's 144 as well, so he's actually the cheapest, because Crozius is free. So he's one of the cheaper ones. Only by about 10 points, but he is a bit cheaper. I quite like the Chaplain for the Grey Knights. I think, like I say, if he went in a unit with the Brother Captain and those, you know, Terminators you've got, that could be really quite nasty. So he's not bad. Brotherhood Champion. So it's the same stat line as the Chaplain, but he's got 1 more attack. So he has 4 attacks, 1 less leadership, so he's leadership 8, and 1 less wounds, so he's got 4 wounds. Comes to the Nemesis 4 sword, all the grenades. 4 sword we've been through. And they shall only fear Demon Hunter's rights of banishment, Iron Halo. He can cast 1 Psychic Power, deny 1, and you know, smite 1 of the power. So it's Heroic Sacrifice. If this model is slain in the fight phase, he can immediately pile in and attack once more before he removes his casualty. It's kind of like Crow, which is quite good because he's got 4 attacks, but unlike Crow, he's actually got a weapon that's useful. So, you know, he'd pile in with his 4 attacks. He'd be hitting on 2s. They'd be AP -3 and D3 damage. He could well finish whatever off he was fighting. So it's a cool rule. The Perfect Warrior. At the start of each fight phase, you must choose a combat stance for this model. Either the Sword Strike or Blade Shield. If you choose the Sword Strike, add 1 to this model's wounds rolls for that phase. If you choose the Blade one, add 1 to the model's saving throws. So although he's got 2+ save, that is very useful because most people AP -1 or 2. So that keeps his save hovering around 2-3+. But actually I like the add 1 to the wound rolls because he's got 4 attacks. If you think about it, he's hitting on 2s. His weakness is he's then strength 4. Unless you give him a Demon Hammer or something, because you can give this guy other equipment. But all of a sudden, you're adding 1 to the wound rolls. So if you're wounding on 5s, you're actually wounding on 4s. You're wounding on 4s, you're actually wounding on 3s. So that's nice. I quite like the Brotherhood Champion. I think he's quite flexible. And again, I imagine he's reasonably cheap. He's 113 points with his equipment as standard. So if you give him a Demon Hammer, he's about 128, 130. I think he's good. Again, for a cheap HQ or a smaller game, I think he could be pretty decent. Doesn't really help the guys around him, but he's got some funky rules. Like I say, if you gave him a Demon Hammer, that Heroic Sacrifice would be great. In fact, you could run in, smash someone in the face, they then kill you, and then you just smash them in the face again for free. With 4 attacks with a Demon Hammer, hitting on 2s. That's pretty great. Okay, so the Brotherhood Champion even is pretty cool. So we're on to troops now. So we've got the Terminator Squad. So there's only 2 troops, there's Terminators and the Strike Squad. So Terminators first. They've got the same stat line as Space Marine Terminators. They've got the 2 wounds now, which is cool. You get 1 Justicar and 4 Terminators. You can have an additional 5. They come with a 4 sword, Stormbolter, and all the grenades. So we've been through all that. Any model may replace this Nemesis 4 sword with an item from the melee weapons list, so you can still choose whatever you like for the weapons, which is funky, really specialise. For every 5 models in the unit, 1 Grey Knight Terminator may replace Stormbolter with an item from the special weapons list. So you're only getting 1 heavy weapon unless you have 10 of them. So most of the time you'll only have 1. They shall only fear Demon Hunter's rights of banishment, so teleport strike. 5+ in vulnerable save, which is cool. They can go into combat squads. They can manifest 1 psychic power and attempt to deny 1. They know smite and 1 other power. If you perils, basically you take D3 mortal wounds. So it's not even that bad necessarily. If you do peril, you might lose a wound or lose 1 model. Considering you've perils, that's not too bad. So Grey Knight's pretty standard, but you can make some good combinations. You know, have a couple of hammers, a couple of falchions, and a warding stave, something like that for a 5-man unit. Therefore, you've got the heavy hitting for the tougher things. You've got the extra attacks for the hordes, and you've got a guy who can take some heavy hits back. Like say, if they take Sanctuary as their other power, which I probably would recommend, that guy's technically got a 3+ invulnerable save and 2 wounds, so he can take it pretty good. And like I say, the warding stave is pretty decent hitting back as well. It's not like it's soft. So yeah. Okay, so Terminators are pretty cool. How many points are they though? Before we carry on, because that's quite important. As much as I say they're cool, they're 46 points. So they're going to be 230 base, but all the weapons are free apart from the Demon Hammer and the shooting weapons. So although it's 230 base, you're actually going to find it about 250 for the squad, which I think is pretty good value considering the flexibility there, the potential there, and the fact that they'll be led probably by someone giving them rerolls to hit or reroll ones to hit. You know, can make them really quite tough. So yeah, I think Grey Knight Terminators are probably slightly better value than they used to be. I think they used to do about that many points anyway, but they only had 1 wound, which obviously made them a little bit soft. Okay, so lost the points page again. Got to stop doing that. Strike Squad. So your basic Grey Knights. They have a basic Space Marine stat line. Everything's normal. You have a Justicar and 4 Grey Knights. You can have an additional 5. They come with a 4-sword Stormbolter and all the grenades. They have all the basic abilities, they shine no fear, etc. Combat squads. They can manifest 1 psychic power, deny 1, and they know smite another, and again D3 more wounds if they perils. Any of them can replace their 4-sword with a melee weapon, so again, lots of flexibility there. You can do whatever you like. Again, a couple of hammers, a couple of falchions, and a warding stave, or halberds. The great thing is, because you've got a few squads of these guys in your army, you can specialise them in that way as well. Although it's better to do that with the interceptors because they're so fast, they can make sure they engage the target you want them to. So these guys, you can make them all round like I've just suggested, or you can say, actually, these guys are going to go monster hunting. Maybe they're in a Storm Raven, so they have a bit more choice over who they attack. And you can have 2 Demon Hammers, 2 Halberds, because they give you the extra strength, and then the Warding Stave, which also gives you extra strength. So, you know, less attacks, but more output, potentially. So, like I say, you can specialise them quite nicely. And then for every 5 models in the unit, they can have a special weapon, Psy Cannon, Incinerator, etc. Now, I think the Strike Squad, the other good news is they've gone down points, so they're 19 points for the Strike Marines, which I think is a bit of a steal, because they used to be more expensive than that. But also I just think 19 points in general is quite cheap. I know that's only 1 point less than a Primaris, and the Primaris has got the 2nd wound, 2nd attack. But these guys do come with a load of grenades, a Stormbolter, which is better than their rifles, just because when you get in close range you get 4 shots. But also you come with a 4-sword, obviously, all their special rules, they can teleport, etc. So I think they're well with it. And the fact that all their weapons again come free, apart from the shooting weapons and the Demon Hammer, I think makes them pretty good value, to be honest. So I think they are on the table as a unit to potentially take as well. So that's all the troops done. So what we're going to do is just move on to the elite, starting with the Apothecary.